Good to see you this Tuesday morning. How are we doing? I hope, as always, we've had a better start to the day. Welcome to the show. This is Your World, and my name is Winnie Lubembe. And today it's all about education because, as we all know, learning remains one of the most critical assets for any country to promote equitable growth and poverty reduction. And that cannot happen without a solid foundation. So while the education sector faces various forms of inequality, Kenya has embarked on an ambitious reforms to address the equality issues. So the question is, what exactly is needed to reform the education sector? Well, let's get to understand more on the same. And of course, to help us with that conversation, we have Mr. Collins Oyu, who is the Secretary General, that is from NAT. How are you doing this morning, sir? Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. And of course, remember, you can be part of the conversation. As always, feel free to interact with us on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya. That is both on Twitter and on Facebook. And remember to tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. So the question that we're asking you today, which we've pretty much asked, is what exactly is needed to reform the education sector? Once again, what exactly is needed to reform the education sector? That is the question of the day. Feel free to, again, get in touch with us on any platform, either on Facebook, on Twitter, or give us a call. The numbers will be down on your screen in just a moment. But if you are contributing via our social media handles, remember to use the hashtag YourWorld and tell us what you think should be done to reform the education sector. All right. So, of course, getting into the conversation, there's a lot that has happened, Mr. Oyu, in the education sector.
Yeah.
You know, way ever since, you know, most of us could remember our primary school days all the way to the high school, you know, and right, so on and so forth. And we've come along. As far as education is concerned, one time we were having a conversation, you know, and it was said that Kenya has one of the best, you know, education actually, like, you know, structures, you know. Right. So then we still have issues.
Issues, you know, must be there every time,
right?
In this sector.
All right. So let's just get to understand, first of all, being a teacher. Then we'll come back to the whole structure about the education. But what exactly is it like, you know, being a teacher in this country?
Yeah, thank you very much. Teachers are very special, not only in this country, but globally. Anything reform with education and improvement of standards of education, teachers are right at the center.
That's true.
You know, a teacher is in charge of, you know, the learners wholesomely. You know, parents have the learners who are their children for a few hours in the day. Most of the day and so many hours in learning experience now, they are in the hands of teachers. The discipline of a child is right in the hands of a teacher. Much as, you know, the child also, I mean, the parent also has time to do some bit of discipline. The implementation of the curriculum is not even with the parent, it is with the teacher.
It is with the teacher.
It is a teacher who actually identifies the skills and the talents in a learner. It's the same teacher who is actually responsible for the morals in a child. I can go further even to say that basically the basic requirement in teaching and learning is right with the teacher.
That's true.
Yes.
I usually say teaching is a calling, really.
It is a calling,
Not
yes,
everybody
because
can be a teacher, right?
We say it's a calling because even as we speak, no government in this country is able to pay a teacher a salary commensurate to the work that teacher
that they are
does.
doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, both of my parents are teachers, and I can see.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
No, they used to release it, be like, but I was just saying, you know what, it's a calling.
With what is happening in the
Yeah.
teaching profession,
Yeah.
I think in a class of 40, mature class of 40, only 2 will think
end up
of being
a
teachers.
teacher.
Yeah.
And I think we need to sort of like change that perspective,
It
really,
has to be
right? Because
changed.
back then, you know, we used to consider teaching as such a noble profession. It still is, but it's just that we need to, you know, re-emphasize,
Right.
you know, that part. But then again, so looking at what is happening, you know, because there's, again, like we talked about, a myriad of challenges that, you know, are affecting the teaching profession, and of course also the quality of education in the country.
Yeah.
Looking at the education structure now in the country, looking at the teachers, looking at the learners, and how, you know, the interrelationship between the two,
Yeah.
would you say you're happy?
Teachers are not happy at all.
Okay.
I think we're just forced to wear a brave face and say we are working.
All right.
Yeah. Teachers are not happy. Look at the environment in which teachers actually perform their duties. Very pathetic. Look at the remuneration for teachers. Much as I've said that teachers cannot be paid by any government, a salary commensurate to what they do, but still teachers need a better package. Teachers must be paid well. We talk of quality education.
That's true.
Quality education can only be delivered by a quality teacher. A quality teacher is a teacher who is paid well, a teacher whose environment of work is suitable.
All right.
And this is not there at all.
All right.
Yes.
And of course, we will talk about then what to do, you know, later on in the conversation in terms of motivating that teacher, you know, to offer quality when it comes to education, because that is what we want, right?
Correct.
At the end of the day. But let's talk about some of the issues that affecting the education sector, because just recently we celebrated World Teachers Day, which is really interesting because, again, the theme was all about, you know, education. Was it transformative education starts with a teacher?
With a teacher.
With a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So a number of issues happened, and COVID-19 was one of the things that really brought to fore the issues that in the teaching profession. So we're still in the pandemic, although not as bad as, you know, how we were 2 years ago. But let's just talk about the impact of COVID-19, especially on education, looking back. Because you see, at that time, there was a lot happening. We're trying to figure out, so how do we, you know, do this? But quantifying the impact of the same.
Now, I think COVID-19 was the worst. Created the most considered disturbance in the education sector.
Absolutely.
Globally, but around me, I mean, allow me to focus on Kenya as a country.
Right. Yeah.
Now, COVID-19 closed schools, and death was there. Personally, I lost my deputy national treasurer in COVID-19, just about a month after closure of schools.
Yeah.
Now, as you look at what happened, I mean, what COVID-19 actually brought in this country. Now, learning was literally suspended. Children went out, and they stayed out for 9 months.
That's a long time.
9 months with a child out of a learning facility. Definitely expect a different person back to school.
Yeah.
And indeed, when these children came back to school, they were not the children we sent home.
Oh, no.
They came back as young parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. One with a child back at home for the girls, and you never know the participation of the young boys in the same,
Absolutely.
or the male learners in the same.
Others
So
were said to have
literally,
started their own businesses.
yes,
you know?
some even went into business. So they were no longer learners anymore. And I want to tell you for a fact that when these learners came back after 9 months, you saw what happened.
Yeah.
Schools were burning every other day.
There's a lot of
Yes, they
unrest
could
in
not be
schools.
controlled in discipline, up to and including a learner hitting a principal on the head. And you saw what the learner used.
Yeah.
A piece of wood that had a nail on it, and right away hitting the principal on the head. So basically, the effects of COVID-19 were real. The curriculum
was affected.
was affected.
Hugely, hugely affected.
And the change in the education calendar was unbelievable.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to thank CS Magoha for having very bold. Our neighbors did not even open schools. And I think right now, Uganda is not even half of what we achieved in terms of, you know, the courage we had and went back to school. I remember in one function where Professor Magoha did disclose to us of his phone call, you know, conversation with the Minister of Education in Uganda, and that is, of course, the spouse to the President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. And what he told us was that Uganda was pleading with Kenya, please don't open schools. We got the reason right, because they wanted us to be together in this loss.
But again, there was also a lot of concerns, especially from the parents, like how sure are we that our kids will be safe in school? Because sometimes you cannot monitor a kid to see whether they're wearing their mask all the time, they're washing their hands all the time. So again, there was a lot of concerns.
Those concerns were valid. But I want to assure you, the teacher is the best security for a child, not even the parent.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have them in school. We are confident with our children. We can put in place proper security. And you know how teachers, you remember how teachers behaved during COVID-19. We left our work. We went into the work that should be in the health sector. We made sure that there was proper distancing.
The protocol was observed,
The hand wash, points were properly placed in schools, and the masks were always on in schools.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So our supervision is high scale. So the worries of parents of safety of their children while in school, I think I should say that is no. They are properly taken care of in schools.
Yeah. And I know and especially during that time where, of course, there was a lot of concerns from the parents as far as the learners, their safety in schools, and of course, given how the calendar as well changed, and there was a lot of pressure, right, from the learners as well. We hardly had conversations about the teachers themselves and their welfare, especially at that time, because now it is these learners are looking up to you for hope, for encouragement, that in as much as we are in the midst of the pandemic, it's still going to be okay. You will still be able to focus on your studies and come out, a much better student. So then the question is the impact of COVID, especially on the teacher. Forget the learning, aspect. Forget, delivering quality education to the learners. Just the teacher themselves and their welfare. What would you say that did for the teachers?
No, I think the teachers really got demoralized to an extent, and the creation of the interventions, and basically when it came to virtual teaching. Now this could not be done by all teachers. And that is where we actually learned that much as we teach the same learners, much as we have the same teachers, learning can be very different in different institutions based on circumstances that are there. For example, some schools introduced, virtual learning, e-learning, and others could not at all. So, that disparity in the coverage of the syllabus was very real. A teacher A can do it, teacher B cannot do it. School A can do it, school B cannot do it. So those are the disparities that are there. And it really affected coverage of the syllabus that we expect to be, so balanced in every other school 100%. In this country.
And we're still recovering from the same, we're still picking up from the same.
Yeah, we are picking up. We are picking up, and I can tell you for free that we've done very well. The teaching fraternity has done very well. The sector has done very well, so that amid all these challenges, we are able to resume the normal calendar next year.
Next year,
yes.
And of course there's a lot when it comes to the double intake.
Exactly, there's a lot of, but those challenges, with whichever kind of challenge, teachers are always prepared. I know that it's not easy, but we face it as it comes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So then looking back, especially when it comes to the interventions that were, were put in place to make sure that in as much as there was a lot of disruptions when it comes to education, but at the end of the day, learning sort of continued. It was too much for both the teachers and the learners, but
yeah.
again, we came out stronger. So looking back at these interventions, what do you think we could have done better to handle this whole situation?
I think all that was placed in terms of interventions really worked on well with us as teachers, because the introduction of the virtual classes, fine. Much as I've said that did not cover all, it really worked. And the new term dates as an intervention was also very real. We could sit and say, fine, because our focus is to resume the normal term dates. How do we now squeeze this calendar to fit in such that by 2023, which of course was the focus, we see ourselves out of the hook. And I told you earlier that teachers did participate in what ought to have been done by the Ministry of Health. So a teacher was, working all around. We made sure that the face masks were there, the water points were there, and social distancing was equally there. So basically, the teacher ensured that there was total security in terms of, matters health, and we did not lose lives in schools. Yeah. We didn't lose lives in schools. We did lose some of our teachers, which of course we pray that the Almighty rest their souls in eternal peace. I've also told you about my Deputy National Treasurer. It was real struggle. It was a real challenge, not to any other person, but particularly to the teachers in this republic, and even globally. You can imagine what we went through.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Must deliver the curriculum. The interventions are here. Some of them are not actually, balanced all over. Yes, because imagine a rural school in Samburu. Compare it to a school in Nairobi City, for example. The exam is one. The teachers are the same. But the mode of communication now becomes different based on the place where these schools are. So that imbalanced kind of, setup caused a real challenge to our teachers.
Absolutely. And of course, then handling these inequalities that, again, exist in the education sector. And of course, just an example that you've given, which honestly we cannot compare because these are two different environments.
Right.
The teachers would say, sort of different in terms of how, because you might find in an urban setting, you might not find as many learners in one classroom as compared to a rural setting.
Right.
There's that imbalance in terms of the public school versus the private school.
Right.
It's a lot, right? So then when it comes to disaster preparedness or pandemic preparedness, because we don't know what could happen in the future. Nobody warned us about COVID-19. We never know what could happen in the future. So when it comes to then preparedness, as far as the education sector is concerned, we've learned lessons from COVID-19. What are some of those things that we need to implement so that in the event we have any other pandemic, we'll be in a much better place?
Now, I think the government should come out clearly and emphasize in, putting more concerns and even financing to public schools. That is a key area that should actually be looked into. Because privatization of education, the cost of it was seen during COVID-19. Some of these private schools were now turned into residents, and the children were sent back to public schools. Private schools cannot handle challenges as they come, because the public sector schools, being supported by the government, are there to stay. But a private school can turn into any other thing. We really sympathized with the learners in private schools. Parents go into those schools, they are no longer schools. I know you cannot control that. And I tell you, you take them to public schools. So the government, in preparedness for any eventuality, should put a lot of effort in, putting into a lot of money in public schools. Most of the teachers employed by Teacher Service Commission are better off in public schools. Now, the agenda in private schools is yet to be questioned. Because if you're a school and, you can bring down the school any moment, there's the likes of the pandemic, then it will be a very sorry state.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There's loss of jobs.
Yeah, just last week,
for some teachers,
Education International Director, EI is the umbrella of unions all over the country. That is Education International. It is a labor center, just like KOTU here, but it now takes over all teacher unions in the whole world.
All right.
What you are addressing is part of what you brought here. Yeah. How prepared should governments be when such befall us?
Yeah.
One kind of preparation, and this was very key, is the funding and proper funding of public education.
Yeah.
And public sector schools, public schools, when funded well, definitely you will actually have a lot for the country.
Absolutely.
Controlled.
It absolutely can work, because majority of the times you find that a teacher would want to teach more in private school than, in public school, because again, there's a bit of that sort of like quote-unquote control in terms of the number of learners in school, in one classroom rather, as compared to the number of learners in public school. There's a lot of influx again, as far as that is concerned. So you're saying more funds should be channeled into public schools. Of course, we've seen that commitment in this government, and of course we'll be talking about that in just a moment, in terms of the commitments and what we see, what has been done so far. But aside from that, there's that question of fine. So what COVID-19 brought about was there is a possibility that learners could actually still get quality education, but from home. The whole aspect of e-learning, right? But then the question of fine, it's good to embrace technology, but then the question is, so then where does a teacher come in this sense, in terms of looking at competency versus knowledge? How then does a teacher come in to make sure that fine, it's good we're embracing technology and innovations and all those things, but the teacher, is still included in that process? Now,
the current trend is that we must embrace technology, but I would wish to say that technology cannot replace a teacher. For me, I went to a teacher training college, and one other thing that we were trained on is how to be close to the learner as much as possible.
All right.
Okay? That personal touch of a teacher.
Bring yourself down to the learner.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which technology cannot do. So as we embrace technology, technology cannot replace a teacher whatsoever.
Okay.
It cannot.
All right.
Because what we look into as we, discharge our duties, of course, the pedagogical skills from a teacher or displayed by a teacher with learners in class, it calls for personal attachment.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
It calls for personal attachment.
Yeah.
A teacher will teach even before opening his mouth.
I mean, that's true.
Yes. Even the manner in which you walk.
Yeah.
You went to school, and I want to remind you, if you didn't do it, then others did it, but I hope you did it.
Okay.
You must have copied something from your teacher.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
100%.
So they could even say it very loudly, I want to do as teacher so and so.
Yes.
Some learners even copy our walking style. So basically,
true.
a teacher does his work even before, presenting herself before a class.
Yeah, so adding that personal touch. So then, do you feel that then teachers should be involved more in terms of even getting to understand, so fine, how then do we put in technology, but at the same time still have the teacher at the forefront, when it comes to technology? I said
that we cannot run away from technology.
From technology, true.
And at the same time, we cannot replace technology. I mean, we cannot replace a teacher with technology.
All right.
What is lacking there between is the personal touch between the teacher and the learner.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. But then again, so then breaking this inequality between those who have access to the internet and those ones who do not have access to the internet. Because again, like you're saying, we don't know. Maybe in the next few years, all teachers would just be teaching online, right? But then again, so making sure that all these learners, and as much as we're having these conversations, these imbalances are actually broken as well.
Yeah, yeah. Worldwide, we shall have imbalances. You cannot have every other thing at a go. Even that is why so many many parents are complaining about CBC.
Yeah.
Now, some will complain based on, you know, the imbalance that is in some area.
All right.
And I even told you earlier as we started talking that you cannot compare a school in Machakos town and a school deep in Kitui County. Yeah. Just like a school in Turkana and a school in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those imbalances must be there.
All right.
But you cannot stop doing the right thing because
Simply
of the
because
imbalances.
the imbalances
Yeah.
are there.
What we must do is, you know, we see how to mend, you know, what is there between Section A or Region A and Region B.
All right.
Yes.
Find a way to balance. All right.
Yes.
And of course, on the question that we asked, and that is what exactly is needed to reform the education sector, I can see Papa Mark Makuda on Twitter says, public participation is key when the necessary reforms are to be undertaken. This will deal with the copy and paste of policies from one area to another. We need an education system that will address the needs of Kenya and an education system that will minimize cramming. Right? Okay, and of course we'll be talking about that, and this is as far as public participation is concerned. Let's get to hear more and let's get to see more feedback as far as the question that we asked you. Well, Jose Kim says, abolish the CBC and improve the 844 system by providing the adequate facilities. All right, CBC versus 844, we'll come back to that. Priscilla Braxton Mugisho says, the government should provide the material, it should be implemented. All right. And then someone else says, this is Nancy Nyanchama says, hiki tu ya CBC ondolewe, system ya 844 irudi, home science, art and craft, and music to be back. All right. And then Cyrus Karungu says, give back the respect to it. We cannot afford to see filthy rich office holders running to go to back to school to acquire education to remain in the office, whereas legitimate educated fellows are languishing in poverty and having no means of getting to the policy table. All right, so keep sending your feedback on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, at Lubembe_Winnie, both on Twitter and on Facebook. We'll be coming back with more, and of course we'll also be reacting to some of your feedback and also still talk about CBC, which yes has been largely talked about, and also all the reforms that are needed in the education sector. So more to come. Stay with us. This is Your World. We'll see you very shortly. All right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. And of course, the show is Your World, and today it's all about reforming the education sector. And of course, the question that we're asking you is, what exactly is needed to reform the education sector? Once again, what exactly is needed to reform the education sector? Again, remember you can engage with us on different platforms, on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. But remember to use the hashtag Your World, tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, and let us know what exactly is needed. That is, what you think is needed to reform the education sector. But again, if you have a question for Mr. Kodlin Soyu, who's the Secretary General, Kenya National Union of Teachers, again, feel free to, give us a call. The numbers are down on your screen, and of course, we'll pass your question directly to him. If you are a teacher watching us, maybe retired, and you have a question for him as well, feel free to do so. We welcome your feedback, and of course I'll be looking at your feedback again as we continue with the conversation. I can see a number of them on Twitter and on our Facebook pages, so we'll compile and then go through them very quickly. But Mr. Wuyu, of course, there's that question of CBC versus the 844 system. First of all, I'd want to understand from you, like, what do you feel about this whole aspect? Because talking to teachers, there are some who are like, yeah, I mean, this is okay, but there's some who are like, this is too tasking.
I think when one complains, there should be a reason.
All right.
It's important that the reason is put forward so that it is addressed.
Yeah.
Yes, you talk of 844 and CBC. Now, The 844 system. Of course, I didn't go through the 844 system. Given my age, I was in 774.
774, yeah.
74,
it was a
2,
lot.
3.
Yeah.
That is when I went to school. Then it changed to 844. Now, 844, as we looked at it, and I think this is why, this is why the CBC issue now came up.
All right.
The system was actually abused. In 844 system, learners had knowledge. In CBC, we are promoting competence. Much as we cannot do it to the level required, for which reason there's this review, the 844 system was mad with knowledge. Exams every other time until, our learners in our schools were like, instead of being taught, they're in exam centers. You can remember, you told me your dad and your mom are teachers.
Both of them are teachers, yeah.
Yes. If you looked into the house every other day and get into their bags as they move to school, either exam papers, books that were being signed, it was examination oriented. And then two, the 844 system had, 3 levels of condemning our learners. At class 8, after KCP, you don't do well, you're done. You either become a yaya in a house somewhere, or maybe, a shamba boy. So that was the end of the learner. Now at Form 4, you are actually condemned to be a border or early marriage. That's the end of you. And at the end of university, because you only have knowledge and no skill at all, you either remain in a border riding group, or you even train yourself into any other thing that
you might want to do.
Very queer.
Okay.
In fact, we have graduates in border points.
Oh, we do. Yes,
yeah.
I was about to say
there's so many of them. So many, and they'll tell you, this is my certificate. Yeah, look at this. I did this in. This was a certificate for 844. Form 4, and this is university. Now here I am doing border. What does that mean? There's no skill in this learner. You have to remain at the border point, where you even learn to be a proper thief. Yeah.
Okay, not all of them really.
Not all of them, but those who you can easily pick one out of frustrations and lure them into very funny kind of missions that are there, and we pity them. These are very strong young men who can do a lot. Yes, to earn a living.
So 844 was more knowledge-based.
It was knowledge-based.
There's no
and kept on condemning our learners in the major 3 stages
but
I've
there's
mentioned.
some people who would say, listen, we went through the 844 system and we turned out okay, we're doing well. And again, like we said, there's a lot of inequalities, still even now, in the education sector.
That is a very special learner. But in CBC, what I understand of CBC, it is basically nurturing talent. If there's a talent that was there with one who went through 844, that must be a very special learner. He went about it, or she went about it alone. But in CBC, the aim is to nurture skills and talents and get these children somewhere so that they are not condemned after every other stage of exam. And that is why this assessment is, so welcome.
All right. But then the question is preparedness, and especially both for the teacher and for the learner. And I think we'll talk about the teachers because, again, you represent the teachers, right? A number of teachers, when you talk to them, they will tell you, listen, I mean, it's a good thing. And change is difficult.
Yes.
Embracing change sometimes is difficult. But sometimes you look back and say, you know what, actually, it's not all bad. But for many teachers will tell you, in as much as we embrace CBC, in as much as we embrace this curriculum review, it's a good thing. But then again, we were not well trained. It was very rushed. Again, the teachers, we do not have enough teachers, and especially in public schools, to make sure, because like we were talking about this during the break, that CBC is more you need like one-on-one attention with the learner. It's not like a collective where you sit in a group and the teacher comes, teach, and then, you know, so you need that one-on-one touch. So there are not enough teachers, right? The training was rushed. The teachers feel they're not well equipped, you know, to give the best to this learner. So that when we talk about, you know, this whole aspect of enforcing, you know, CBC. What is that? Again, what can that be changed from the teachers? Before you answer that, could we take a call and then we'll come back to you answer that? We have Kevin on the line. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Winnie. How are you?
Kevin, if you can hear me, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. How are you?
Very well. I can't hear you, Kevin, so kindly speak up. Thank you so much for calling us today. Do you have a question for SG?
Thank you. It's not really a question, Winnie. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Now, personally, I am an educationist. I teach in the university. I've taught in the university for several years.
All right.
And actually, when you talk about education, some of us are what we are because of education. So I think the question is quite relevant at where Kenya is in terms of education.
All right.
The issues of exactly reforming.
Sorry?
What does reform mean actually? It's making it better.
Yeah.
It is not that we don't have a system. We have a curriculum which is there. And when I look at the NAT, is it official or you? Congratulations, and I think you are fitting the shoes of the former NAT chairperson. Winnie, what I'm looking at when you talk about reforming is making a better product.
All right.
A better product for this country. And one thing I think the NAT in charge says that it's giving a conducive environment. What is conducive? Conducive is a good housing, packaging, appreciating a teacher through promotion, etc., etc. And I'm saying this because I'm a whole system, the A levels. I look at the discipline of our kids today because I'm a father, and I see something that is missing. We used to have the National Youth Service, where people could train and get back home with skills. It is the teacher who has the best skill that can make this country have the best leaders.
All right.
So we need to give the teacher that space and environment to give us the best product. Lastly, quality is very important. When you compromise quality, then you are doing nothing. And quality comes with that environment, the conducive environment. So I think what we need is not actually the CBC. I look at the aptness of a class 2, a grade 1. Because nowadays we are so confused, Winnie, when we hear of grade 1, grade 2, and we are standard 1, 2, 3. We need to come up with a very good selection. We pick the very important skills in CPC. We merge with the 844.
All right.
And then we merge with the 742, whatever, the previous system. Then we come up with a well-refined system actually that meets the industry today.
All right.
What do we need exactly for an engineer? What do we need exactly for a technician? We need to pick those things and come up with a very unique system which will give us a better student, not a theoretical student.
All right.
But a student who will be able to fit. And again, lastly, before I finish.
Okay, very quickly.
Is that we need to have a space for those kids who are not academically smart. Not everybody is a grade. Where do they go? Can we bring back our technical schools? Can we bring back our village polytechnic in a better package? I think we focus more on politics than education. And I'm urging the government, kindly can you focus on education and give the teacher that environment if you want
that they need.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Winnie, and Salimia
SG. Anakusikia amesalimika
Thank
sana.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for calling us this morning.
Asante.
All right, thank you so much. A number of things that Kevin has pointed out, but of course, quickly, let's just talk about, CBC. I think you'll also merge with what he's talked about. That is merging CBC 844 and the one you went through, which was a bit longer. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think before Kevin came on air, we were addressing the issue of
CBC with the teachers,
implementation with the teachers and so on.
Yes.
Now, NAT is a professional body, and what we do must be very professional. And where we actually put a lot of effort is, how education is actually rolled out and the effects it has on our teachers. Now, when CBC came, we conducted a fully blown research.
All right.
And there's a research document that was presented to the Ministry of Education, dated 13th March 2019. And they have it. Now, the topic we dealt with was teacher preparedness to implement
The
CBC.
Yeah.
And we gave reasons. Teachers were not prepared then. We were not saying that we don't want CBC, but we were particular on the preparation of our teachers. Now, when we went around conducting this research, it came out very clearly, and the report is there, that our teachers were not prepared. Even the government itself was not prepared. You start off rolling CBC or implementing CBC. One, the shortage of teachers was real. And I want to thank the government of His Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Now, what they saw in preparedness for CBC is what we addressed in 2019. Shortage of teachers. The government is ready now to employ 116,000. What was happening before was employment of about 5,000 in a year. And that was just a drop in the ocean. So our research findings were very clear. Teachers are not prepared. The government is not prepared. We have shortage of infrastructure. Now we have shortage of learning materials. And if we are out to acquire learning materials, they are so expensive. The government cannot actually, go by what is required to have CBC rolled out. I think we were very clear and we gave recommendations.
Exactly happened,
If summarized, our recommendation was, can it wait?
All right.
Yes.
All right.
And
So
nobody was
until-
ready to wait.
as
we requested for more time, the train has already left the station.
Yes.
Our question was, fine, it has left the station, but it has passengers. Are you mindful of the passengers?
And now we're here, and we've seen a lot of concerns raised as far as the CBC, how it's been implemented, questions about whether the learners are getting the quality. We're here now, right? We have a new government that is only a month and a few days old. A number of commitments that were made, including employment of, again, 116,000 teachers within 2 financial years, right? And of course, there's also that question of, again, in terms of helping to bridge the gap, there's also the question of improving and, constructing more classrooms so that, again, learners have a conducive environment and all those things. I mean, there's a lot of commitments as far as the education sector is concerned. Anything that has been done so far? What is it that, do you feel that this will actually be implemented, holding the government accountable?
What we've mentioned here has not been done. Yes, they are yet to be done. First and foremost, can we employ more teachers?
More teachers.
Yes.
That is what is needed.
Now, the breakdown was half of 116,000 be employed this year. Now, I don't think it is very possible to employ 58,000. 58,000. I know, based on the kind of budget that is there, I don't think it will be very possible. But my prayer is, can it go as was promised?
All right.
The 58,000.
All right.
Now, in a class in Africa, for example, with the recommendations of UNESCO, that is in Africa. One teacher should stand before a class of 40. The ratio is 1 to 40. what is there now?
Oh, yeah. What is on the
Averagely
ground
is 1 to 70.
That's a lot.
Yes, go to Olympic Primary.
Yeah.
A teacher handles 120 in a class.
Wow.
Yeah. Yet we are in grade 6 in CBC.
Yeah.
You know, the perception, when you talk of grade here, grade 6, what is there in our mind is that it has been there for 6 years. We are forgetting that we had PP1 and PP2. So these are 8 years into CBC.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
So, you know, grade PP1, PP2, grade 1, grade 2, till grade 6.
All right.
Until we are now crossing over to junior secondary, which I don't want to refer to as junior secondary. It should be senior primary. Yeah. We are there.
All right.
Yet, not much has been done. I want to thank the president.
All right. So the commitments are good. It's important
That
to have this commitment.
commitment
But first
is
of
great.
all, start by employing teachers.
Yes.
All right. What else would you recommend? Having been here in this field, you understand what exactly is needed.
No,
Very
the capitation, you know, the funding to schools should be improved so much,
all right.
so that heads and principals of institutions are able to do their best with the funding. Then there are policies in the education sector that don't even allow good performance from our teachers.
All right.
I'm happy the delocalization policy has been addressed,
Yeah.
where teachers would work effectively in a very, very conducive environment.
Yeah.
And you listened to Kevin. He talked of the environment
Yeah,
of
which is
teachers, very key.
important. Yeah.
So also at the same time, much as we want proper staffing, are we prepared, on the other hand, to motivate the same
Motivate the
teachers?
yes, and pay
Because
them.
you bring in more teachers, they get into the very, very same sorry state others are in, then delivery becomes the same.
It becomes a
Now,
challenge,
that
yeah.
will compromise quality. And I told you at the onset, quality teaching is done by a quality teacher.
who's
A quality
motivated.
teacher is a teacher who is motivated.
All right.
Yes.
Let's motivate the teachers. I
We
know
must
time is not
motivate
on
the
our
teachers.
side.
Yeah.
We need to bring this to a close, but let's take a look at some of the feedback, what you had to say as far as the question, and that is what exactly is needed to reform the education sector. Kahindi Kitsao Katana says the education system in Kenya is good. It just needs to be affordable to the parents. Government needs to give enough facilities and teachers with no politics. The truth is the government has to take its responsibility. All right. And then someone else says, this is Faris or Watch, who says, have the best curriculum that suits the emerging issues and challenges in the current world. Teachers to be handled as professionals so as to deliver by providing the best working environment. The government funds being channeled to schools to have proper auditing through physical accounting of what's on the ground and paperwork. Otherwise, school heads are looting everything. Okay. And then someone else says, this is Yegon, Dominic says, government should provide the necessary infrastructure, teachers, equipment and learning materials, especially for the public poor schools. At the moment, the schools are disadvantaged in this CBC curriculum. All right, so then as we bring this to a close, Adrian, I'll just give you like 30 seconds to give us your parting shot. Just recently, of course, the Deputy President came and said, listen, we're not abolishing CBC completely. Right. We're just trying to see what works and then what doesn't, and then improve on what works. So then what would you say to this as far as just making CBC work really, both for the learners, for the teachers, and the entire education system, and improving the structure?
Of course, being a defender of teachers, I must get into their terms and conditions of service.
All right.
Now, one, teachers must be remunerated well so that we can have quality education, quality teaching in our schools.
All right.
Now, then two, the policies that are there now must be reviewed to make education even better.
All right.
The government must pronounce itself to be in charge of education.
All right.
It should be hands-on. We must have proper infrastructure. Teachers must be employed in numbers to actually get the shortage done away with. And finally, capitation to these schools. Yeah. And I'm sorry to say, you know, our perception about teachers is also, should also...
Needs to change.
Yeah, and you've just listened to one talking about writing about teachers looting school funds.
Yeah.
That is wrong. Yeah, if you know that there's a teacher looting funds, why don't you make this report? And calling a teacher a thief, because looting is stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have thieves in schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need
These are teachers.
we need to have
Go
teachers
to that
at
school and
thieves.
do proper audit.
All right.
It will be okay. I was interdicted at one time.
Yeah.
Some people just came and said, you know, funds were looted in this school.
Okay.
No fund was looted at all.
Okay.
And in fact, after auditing, the only person who knows what is spent in school is the auditor.
The auditor. All right.
Sent by the Ministry of Education. Let us respect our teachers.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that statement should be withdrawn.
All right. No, they need, like you're saying, go make a report. If you know a teacher who is looting,
yes,
go make a report, have the investigations done, and then, because we want teachers who, again, you know, professionals in schools to teach our learners. Thank you very much, SG, for coming by today. Mr. Collins Seyu, Secretary General, Kenya National Union of Teachers. Thank you so much, really, for coming by today.
Most welcome.
And of course, thank you so much as well. The feedback is a lot. We could not go through them one by one because it's just, you know, a lot. But one person posting a teacher says, we structure the CBC because so many things we teach are irrelevant. Secondly, employee special needs teachers, special schools have less staff. All right. So keep the conversation going on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. And remember, you can also catch this episode on our website. So we have to close it here. My name is Winnie Lubembe. God bless. Have yourselves a good one. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time. Simply stay safe and God bless. Goodbye. Thank you for coming.